Some mornings, the sunlight feels too honest. It slips through the blinds before you're ready, landing on a face that's still half asleep, half guarded. You squint, mutter something to the sky, and reach for your coffee like armor. The warmth steadies you. The light insists. You laugh quietly. "All right, sunshine. Not so loud." It's a silly thing to say, but that's how it feels. Like joy has barged into the room without knocking. You've spent years perfecting the art of caution, paying bills on time, answering emails before lunch, holding everyone else together. Yet here comes this sunlight, uninvited, reminding you of something you've almost forgotten: how to feel happy without a reason. Joy, for many adults, is not simple. It's a muscle we stopped using somewhere between our first mortgage and our first heartbreak. The body remembers responsibility. It forgets play. We know how to keep the lights on, but not how to stand in them. You sit at the kitchen table, mug in hand, and notice the dust dancing in the beam. For a second, you imagine the specks as tiny stars. Then the thought embarrasses you. You glance away, as if caught daydreaming in public. Since when did wonder start feeling childish, you think? Sometimes the hardest part of healing is standing in the light you asked for. You look around the room: unmade bed, unopened mail, a plant leaning toward the window as if begging you to notice how good the morning is. Life isn't perfect, but it's here, waiting. And you realize something tender. Maybe happiness isn't missing. Maybe you just stopped stepping into it. You take a sip and watch steam rise, twisting in the sunlight like a tiny prayer that doesn't need words. The smell of toast drifts in. A bird outside insists on being heard. It's all so ordinary, and yet something inside you stirs. A quiet ache that says, "This is enough." Still, another voice hums beneath. "Don't relax too much. It won't last." That's the habit of someone who's lived too long in survival mode. You've learned to scan the horizon for the next storm, even on a clear day. You don't trust calm. It feels like the setup before pain. You tell yourself you're being realistic, but truthfully, you're just afraid to believe in good things again. It's not your fault. The world has tested you. Job losses, long nights, broken promises. The nervous system adapts. It learns vigilance like a second language. So when joy finally knocks, your instinct is to double lock the door. But sunlight is patient. It waits. You place the mug down and look at the floor where a strip of gold cuts across the tile. Without thinking, you step around it. Then you stop. What if I don't? You take one slow breath and step into the warmth. It feels strange at first, too bright, too exposed. But then something in your chest softens. The light doesn't judge. It just holds. And in that moment, a small truth blooms. Maybe joy isn't dangerous. Maybe it's just unfamiliar. You smile, a little awkwardly, like someone learning a new language. The plants on the sill seem to nod their approval. You chuckle, shaking your head at yourself, and that tiny laugh becomes a hinge the day turns on. Outside, the world keeps doing what it does. Trucks groaning down the street, a child's voice, the rhythm of everyday life. Inside, the air feels lighter. You whisper, "Maybe I can let this in." It's not a declaration, it's an experiment. You don't have to prove anything, you just have to notice what's already good. The sunlight moves as the minutes pass, tracing new lines across the table. You sit with it a while longer. For once, you don't rush to close the blinds, because somewhere, deep down, you sense what Maslow meant, that joy isn't a luxury or a prize. It's evidence that you survived the night. And maybe that's enough for today. Joy can be strange when you've lived too long in survival mode. It shows up quietly, in a song you hum by accident or a breeze that feels kinder than it should. And your first reaction isn't gratitude, it's caution. Happiness feels like a guest who doesn't stay. You scroll through your phone, thumb moving out of habit. Everyone looks effortless, morning jogs, matching mugs, smiling families in perfect light. You tell yourself you're happy for them, and you are. But there's that pinch inside, the tiny whisper that says, "Don't relax, don't believe it." Something always happens next. The truth is, many of us have been trained to brace for impact. We learned early that joy could disappear without warning. A relationship ending, a parent's voice raised, a paycheck delayed, a good thing gone suddenly quiet. Somewhere along the line, Our bodies started treating happiness as danger and worry as safety. So now, when a kind day arrives, your shoulders tighten instead of drop. You wait for the catch, the text, the small disaster that tells you the good feeling wasn't real. When you've lived in storm weather long enough, you tell yourself, sunshine feels like a setup. The words land heavy, but they're true. You've grown skilled at surviving rain. Now you don't know what to do with the sun. You look up from your phone and see that same sunlight streaming through the window. It touches your coffee mug, turning it gold. You want to enjoy the moment, but guilt creeps in. Shouldn't I be doing something productive right now? You've confused rest with failure, stillness with laziness. Maslow once said that we fear our highest possibilities as much as our failures. He didn't mean fame or success. He meant joy, creativity, peace. Those moments of genuine light frighten us because they prove life can be good, and goodness demands we trust it. You lean back and sigh. I treat happiness like an Amazon package I didn't order. Suspicious until proven safe. The joke makes you smile, but your chest still feels tight. Humor helps, yet it doesn't erase the ache of how much you've missed. You think about times you've stopped yourself mid-laugh because it felt too much. Or those rare weekends when you tried to relax and ended up cleaning the whole house just to quiet the discomfort. It's strange how comfort itself can become uncomfortable. Sometimes you think, maybe I don't deserve happiness yet. You measure worth in productivity, kindness, sacrifice, everything but joy. You've told yourself, when things settle, I'll rest. When I achieve more, I'll celebrate. But peace keeps slipping further away, always waiting for conditions to improve. You watch a thin line of sunlight crawl across the floor. It's unbothered by your hesitation. The sun has no agenda. It doesn't care if you've earned it or not. It simply shines because that's what it does. You close your eyes, and memories flood in. Laughter that ended too soon. Plans that didn't work out. Small betrayals that taught you to stay guarded. Your heart has built a cautious architecture. Walls made of maybe next time. But deep down, another voice stirs. Softer, almost childlike. What if it's okay to feel good? You stay still. The question feels dangerous, but also kind. Maybe it's not joy you mistrust. Maybe it's the vulnerability of joy, the surrender of letting life be kind to you without asking for proof. You remember that happiness once came easily. As a child, you could find delight in a bubble, a song, a puddle reflecting the sky. No permission required. Then came adulthood, rent, deadlines, heartbreak, the weight of being the one who holds it all together. Somewhere in between, joy became something you scheduled or postponed. You open your eyes again. The world hasn't changed, but something in you has softened. The light that once felt harsh now feels almost gentle, like a hand resting on your shoulder saying, "You made it through." You realize how exhausting it's been to keep joy at arm's length. The guarding, the planning, the waiting for the right time. You've spent so much energy surviving that you forgot surviving was supposed to lead somewhere. Back to living. Maslow called it self-actualization, but maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe it's just allowing yourself to exhale. You take a deep breath. The air moves easier this time. There's a small warmth behind your ribs, not fireworks, not euphoria, just calm. And you whisper, almost as a promise, maybe I don't have to earn this. You look again at your phone on the table. Notifications blink like tiny demands, but you don't pick it up. For now, you just let the sunlight fall across your lap. It feels like a truce. Joy, you realize, isn't something to chase or protect. It's something to practice. And the first practice is trust. Outside, a bird chirps once and flies on. You smile, not because everything is fixed, but because for this moment, you've stopped waiting for something to break. You sit quietly and let the light touch your face. The warmth feels like truth. It happens on a Saturday afternoon, the kind of day that hums quietly in the background of life. You're not expecting anything big, just clearing space, sweeping corners, pretending that organizing shelves will somehow organize your thoughts. The sun is bold today, slanting across the porch like it owns the place. As you bend to pick up an old cardboard box, something catches your eye. In the back corner, covered in a fine film of dust, sits your old bicycle, the one you used to ride down the street just to feel wind on your skin. You stare at it for a long moment. It's strange how memory can live in metal. You run your fingers along the handlebars. The rubber grips are cracked, but they still fit your palms. You can almost feel the ghost of motion, that rhythmic push of pedal and breath, that once familiar freedom of moving for no reason at all. And just like that, something small inside you aches. You remember a version of yourself who didn't need an excuse to be happy. You'd ride to nowhere in particular, just to see how far your legs and curiosity could carry you. You'd come home sweaty, laughing, alive. And now, here you are, older, responsible, surrounded by things that prove you've survived. And yet, part of you feels like a museum of unfinished joys. You exhale. Maybe I should just throw it out, you say. But even as you speak, the words feel false, because some quiet part of you knows this isn't junk, it's an invitation. You drag the bike into the sunlight. The dust rises in tiny golden swirls, like the air is applauding you for remembering. The tires sigh. The chain creaks in protest. Still, it's here, and so are you. You think of Maslow's words again. We fear our highest possibilities as much as our failures. Maybe this moment right here is what he meant. It's not the mountain of ambition we're afraid of. It's the ordinary happiness sitting in our garage, waiting for us to say yes. You grab a rag and start wiping the dust from the frame. The act feels almost sacred, like you're cleaning off the part of yourself that believed joy was dangerous. The sunlight catches the chrome and suddenly, you're 12 again. Bare feet on pedals, hair in wind, no destination, no fear. You laugh quietly. It sounds foreign at first, like hearing an old song you forgot you loved. When was the last time you laughed without an audience? You lift the bike upright, feeling the weight settle between your hands. There's a small tremor in your stomach, the flutter of excitement, or maybe nerves. You push it forward once. The tires complain, but roll. And that's when the decision forms. Not loud or dramatic, but steady and sure. I'm going to ride. You walk it down the driveway, the sunlight warm on your arms. The chain squeaks with every turn, but you don't care. You place one foot on the pedal, the other on the ground, and push. The first few feet are wobbly, awkward, almost comical. You feel foolish and free all at once. Wind rushes past your ears, tugging your hair, cooling your skin. Every turn of the wheel feels like forgiveness. You pedal a little faster. The world blurs just enough to remind you that you're part of it, not just passing through. And then something shifts, quietly, profoundly. You're no longer performing life, you're living it. For once, your body remembers what your mind forgot, that joy is safe. You slow down and look up. The trees shimmer, the air hums, and the sunlight no longer blinds you. It holds you. You realize this is what trust feels like. Not in people or outcomes, but in existence itself. You circle the block once more, then twice. There's no destination, no timer, no expectation, only motion, only breath, only now. When you finally stop, the sweat on your forehead glows like proof. You lean on the handlebars and catch your breath, laughing softly. You look down at your hands, still steady, still capable, and whisper, I thought this part of me was gone. Maybe healing isn't adding anything new. Maybe it's remembering what was never truly lost. You wheel the bike back toward the porch. The sunlight drapes over it gently, like a promise kept. You park it near the door this time, not in the corner. You want to see it every morning. A quiet reminder that joy doesn't have to be earned. As you turn to go inside, a warm breeze brushes your cheek. You pause, hand on the doorknob, heart open just a little wider. Thank you, you whisper. To the bike, the light, the moment, to yourself. The house greets you the same as always, but you're not the same person who walked out. Something small and honest has returned. Something that hums softly, like sunlight under the skin. And for the first time in a long while, you're not afraid of tomorrow's brightness. You're looking forward to it. You wake up the next morning feeling a little lighter, though you can't explain why. There's a quiet hum in your chest, a softness behind your ribs. It's not excitement exactly, more like relief. You pour your coffee, glance at the bike by the door, and catch yourself smiling. It's still dusty in places. The chain still squeaks, but it's standing there, in the sunlight, unapologetically alive. That's when you remember Maslow, his old diagram, the one you half remember from a college psychology class. The pyramid with self-actualization at the top. Back then, it sounded abstract, like something for philosophers or wellness retreats. But now, it feels deeply personal. Maslow never said happiness was a luxury. He said it was proof of health, that joy, creativity, and laughter aren't indulgences. They're signs that your basic needs have been met, that your spirit is safe enough to play again. You lean against the counter and think, maybe happiness isn't a goal after all. Maybe it's a vital sign. There's something radical about that idea, especially in a world that teaches us to chase achievement, not contentment, to grind for success, not serenity, to post smiles instead of live them. You chuckle softly. Maslow never said, grind harder, you whisper to yourself. He basically said, go ride your damn bike. The joke lands somewhere deep in you, a blend of humor and truth. Because you see it now. Joy isn't the opposite of work. It's what work is supposed to lead to. You take another sip of coffee and watch sunlight crawl across the floor. It doesn't rush. It just moves naturally, without apology. You envy that steadiness, the way light knows exactly what it's doing. You start to wonder, when did you start asking permission to feel good? Who convinced you that peace had to be earned through exhaustion? Why did you accept guilt as the price of rest? Maslow would probably say it's cultural conditioning, a learned fear of being fully alive. He believed most people settle for safety and routine, not because they lack ambition, but because they fear what true freedom might ask of them. Because joy changes you. It wakes you up. It makes you question why you've tolerated so much gray when color was always an option. You set the mug down and open the window. The air is cool, but the light that enters feels warm and steady. It paints the room in shades you hadn't noticed before. Soft gold, quiet amber, a touch of rose at the edges. You realize this is what aliveness looks like in color. The ordinary, illuminated. A thought forms, clear, simple, powerful. Joy isn't a reward for surviving. It's evidence you're still alive. You whisper it aloud. It feels like a prayer and a challenge all at once. The world outside hasn't changed. Cars still rush by. Someone's dog still barks at the mailman. But you notice a small gap between moments, a space where peace lives quietly, waiting to be chosen. You think of all the people who are still holding their breath, afraid of good days, waiting for permission to be okay. You wish you could tell them what you're learning, that the light isn't trying to expose your flaws, it's trying to remind you that you exist. Maslow believed that when people feel safe enough, they naturally become kinder, more creative, more generous. It's as if joy expands the soul's reach. Maybe that's the real purpose of happiness, not to decorate life, but to deepen it. You look at the bike again. Yesterday, it was an act of nostalgia. Today, it feels like a mirror, not a reflection of who you were, but who you still are. Someone capable of joy, someone allowed to be whole. Outside, a patch of sunlight spills across the driveway. It's the same light as yesterday, yet somehow it feels different. No longer blinding, just welcoming. You step closer to the window, eyes open this time, no flinching. And for a moment, you think maybe that's all Maslow ever meant, to stop hiding from the light you already carry. The sunlight feels softer today, not because the sky has changed, but because something in you has. You stand by the window, coffee in one hand, notebook in the other. You flip to a blank page and write 3 simple words at the top. Practice feeling good. It looks almost childish on paper, but the older you get, the more you realize that the simplest goals are often the bravest. You think of all the years you spent chasing productivity, earning approval, filling schedules, crossing off lists. It kept you safe, yes, but also small. Somewhere along the way, joy became a word you saved for weekends that never came. Now, you're ready to change that. Not by doing something grand, but by doing something small. You remember what yesterday felt like when you stepped into the light. That warmth, that quiet permission. You want more of that, not in bursts, but in rhythm. So you begin to imagine what daily practice could look like. Step 1, 2 minutes of sunlight. You decide that before checking your phone each morning, you'll walk to the window and let the sun touch your face. 2 minutes, no scrolling, no headlines, just breathing. You set the mug down, open the blinds wider and take a slow inhale. It's almost nothing, and yet it changes everything. The room feels wider, your shoulders drop, your breath deepens. Fred Rogers once said that the best gift we can give each other is our honest presence. Maybe that includes yourself too. Standing here, unguarded, you offer yourself presence, the kind that says, I'm here, and that's enough. Step 2, laugh on purpose. You scroll through your phone later, but this time with a mission. Not to compare, not to escape, but to find something that makes you genuinely laugh. A dumb meme, a corny video. You let the sound escape before you can stop it. The laugh feels awkward at first, like testing a voice that hasn't been used in a while. But then it grows, deeper, realer. You think, oh, this is what joy sounds like when it's not filtered through guilt. Step 3, do one thing, joyfully. Bad. In the afternoon, you take out an old sketch pad from a drawer. The pencils are short and the page is crumpled.
But they still hold promise.
You draw a tree. It comes out lopsided and strange, but you keep going. You fill the page with crooked lines and messy color, and somehow it feels perfect. You whisper to yourself, I forgot how good imperfection feels. For years, you've lived under the rule of do it well or don't do it at all. That rule made you competent, but it also made you quiet. Today, you break it gently. You sing a line off key. You dance badly while the pasta boils. You make peace with looking silly. Because joy doesn't demand perfection. It demands participation. You pause mid-laugh and realize, this is what healing looks like. Not a grand revelation, but an accumulation of small permissions. You take out your notebook again and jot down a few lines. Joy isn't a task, it's a temperature. Guilt is a leftover habit. Light doesn't need to be earned. Each sentence feels like a small truth returning home. As evening approaches, the light shifts again, orange and forgiving. You step outside for a short walk. Neighbors wave. Kids ride their bikes down the street, their laughter spilling across the pavement like sunlight made of sound. You smile and think how easy it is for them to trust joy. They don't overthink it, they just live it. You start to wonder, what if adults could live that way too? Not with reckless abandon, but with gentle permission. You take a breath and decide that every day, you'll choose one small act of joy and guard it like sacred ground. Tomorrow it might be a bike ride. The next day it might be a nap in the sun. Some days it might be simply saying, I'm okay, and meaning it. Maslow said that when our basic needs are met, we naturally move toward growth. Maybe joy is that growth, the quiet proof that we're safe enough to expand. As you walk home, the sky glows deeper and you realize that joy doesn't erase pain. It coexists with it, softens it, teaches it to breathe. You can carry both. You step back inside and close your notebook.
The page looks simple, but it holds something sacred.
A plan to be kind to yourself, again and again. You whisper, you don't have to earn joy. You just have to stop canceling it. The room answers in silence, but a warm silence, the kind that feels like agreement. Evening settles like a sigh. The air cools, the street hums, and the light, your old teacher, returns in its gentlest form. Gold leans into everything, the fence, the window, the rim of your mug. You stand by the porch, watching the sun dip low, and feel that familiar pull between endings and beginnings. This morning's light felt like confrontation. Now it feels like company. You take a slow breath, one hand resting over your chest, as if to keep the warmth from escaping. There's peace here, not dramatic, not absolute, but real. The kind that hums beneath the noise, whispering, "You made it through another day." You smile at the bike by the door. It gleams faintly in the dim light, chain oiled, seat straightened, ready. You didn't ride today. You didn't need to. Just seeing it there is enough. A promise that joy is within reach whenever you're ready. You pour the last of your coffee, now lukewarm, and sit near the window. The sunlight has turned to amber, thick and soft, touching everything without hurry. It paints your hand, your cup, the quiet curve of your face. You realize how often you've looked for miracles in big things, when they were always hiding in small light like this. The world outside is still imperfect. Bills wait on the counter. Emails blink for attention. The news will keep shouting. But for now, you let all of that exist without invading your peace. You've learned that peace isn't what happens when life stops shouting. It's what happens when you stop listening to everything that doesn't matter. You whisper to yourself, maybe it was never too bright. I was just afraid to shine back. The words land deeper than you expect.
Because it's true. You spent years dimming yourself out of fear that light would attract loss.
You learned to expect disappointment so you wouldn't feel it as deeply. But all that did was numb the good parts too. You tilt your head toward the fading sun and a thought rises, calm and steady. Maybe the safest place isn't the shade after all. Maybe the safest place is learning to stand in the light, eyes open. Maslow believed that when we allow ourselves to experience joy fully, we become more human, not less. That happiness doesn't make us shallow, it makes us generous. When we stop apologizing for feeling good, we start sharing that goodness without even realizing it. You think about the people around you. Your coworker who always apologizes for laughing too loud. Your friend who can't relax without earning it. The neighbor who waters everyone's plants but forgets her own. You see pieces of yourself in all of them, and you wish, with a gentle ache, that they could feel what you feel right now. This simple contentment, this quiet sunlight of the soul. You want to tell them, joy is not fragile. It's you, remembering how to face the light. You take another breath, slower this time. The air smells faintly of evening rain, the kind that cools everything down but leaves the world glistening. You hear a distant laugh, a child maybe, or a neighbor talking on the phone. Life, still happening, ordinary and sacred at once. You think about how easy it is to overlook this, the small blessings that require no announcement, the warm mug, the clean dishes, the way sunlight finds its way through dusty glass. You used to rush past them. Now you linger, because you understand. These are the quiet proofs of being alive. A quote drifts through your mind, one that feels like both Fred Rogers and Oprah could have spoken. You don't have to do extraordinary things to live a meaningful life. You just have to keep showing up with love. You sit in that thought for a while, letting it settle. You've chased meaning for years, and now it feels like meaning has been chasing you all along, waiting for you to slow down enough to notice. The sky deepens. The first stars blink awake. You close your eyes and let the light inside linger, gentle and steady. Tomorrow will have its worries. That's life. But tonight, you are safe. You are here, and the sun will rise again, not as a test, but as a reminder. You whisper a small vow, simple as breathing. Tomorrow, I'll let the light in again, even if just for a minute. You stand, stretch, and take one last look at the glowing sky. It's fading, yes, but in a way that promises return. The day closes its eyes. The sun, your symbol of joy, slips below the horizon, but its warmth remains inside you, like a quiet pulse of hope. And as night wraps around your shoulders, you realize something profound in its simplicity. You don't have to chase the light anymore. You've learned how to carry it,